Alright, so for now I just bought one of the cheap basic Weber kettles. That's what I use to smoke on. I've been doing it a couple months now. I'm gonna get an offset probably here in the near future. I've actually been looking at the Yoder loaded Wichita. That's the one I think I'll go with. But this works for a lot of smoking. I would like to have a lot more cooking surface area, which is the reason for getting something bigger. This is a snake setup for your charcoal. That's for smoking long cooks. You can get several hours out of it. You light one end and it slowly burns around. And I've got some hickory in here. I'm going to do a pork butt. But the hickory, I don't put it right at the very beginning. I'll use a water pan and also help catch drippings. But when I do put this in here, I'll have to adjust that charcoal just a little bit. There we go. Once I get it lit here on this end, then I'll put this over here. I just didn't want to, I light it with a torch. I didn't want to incinerate a piece of wood from the get-go, because this stuff is killing dry, this wood chunks. So anyway, that's what I'll do. I'll get it lit over here, then I'll put my pan in. I'll put something in here. You can put some hot water, or people put apple juice, beer, whatever you want in it. Just some kind of liquid that helps keep some kind of moisture. It acts as a heat sink. It helps regulate temperatures in your cooker. Bottom vent's wide open. Initially I'll start with the top wide open as well. I'll get this hot and I'll put my grate on. This is the grate that I use. It's got these. It didn't come with it since I bought the basic one. I bought that separate. So I'll get it hot, then I'll clean this off really good before I bring the food out. Let the smoker come up to temp, and go back in the house. And the pork butt, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split it into two pieces. It's a boneless pork butt. Speed up the cooking time, plus it gives a lot more bark. So what I'll do is I'll put that here more center. I'll have two big pieces here and here, and then partially through the cook, as this moves around, I can adjust where the pieces of meat are on the grate. So as it gets over here, if I got one of the halves up here over that, it'll get too hot under it. So I would take this one and move it here and move that one over. That way you're getting the smoke effect, but it's not, you're not getting it over direct heat and risk burning the bottom of it. I've seen quite a few barbecue guys, and they'll buy a torch that goes on, a propane torch or like a weed burner, to light their charcoal with instead of using a chimney. It's just faster to get going. I've got one also, but I bought this one. It's called gas power. I bought this one on Amazon for like $25, $30. It works great. It just screws onto a regular camp bottle. Something else you may notice, you'll see some partially burnt here. So I did a direct cook not long ago, and I actually used some lump charcoal in that instead of briquettes. And I had some left over. So when I cleaned my grill out, what didn't fully burn, I've got some chunks. I usually put it toward the beginning of a snake, or I'll put that in my charcoal pile for next time. You can still burn that stuff. It's good to start a fire with. I've seen some people, they clean a grill, they'll take the partial chunks and partial lump pieces of charcoal briquettes and all that, and they just throw it away. I mean, it's still charcoal. There's nothing wrong with it. Got this boneless pork butt here. Now a lot of people will prefer to cook bone in, but I'm actually going to cut this in half, so boneless works better for what I'm doing. I'm wanting to speed up the cook time a little bit, and it gives more bark. So when you cut one of these in half, you want to go crossways. If you go across this way or across that way, you're not going to get as much surface area. If you cut it like into quarters or thirds or something, you'll end up potentially drying your meat out, because this, you've got the fat cap on one side. Relatively forgiving. It's a fatty cut of meat, so a lot of fat here to render down. So I'm gonna cut this in half, and I'll season it with some coarse kosher salt and some black pepper. I use this Dallas Strong Valhalla slicer knife. It was like a sword. Cut this, and then we'll go out and season, or I'll season it and go out and get this started. Things like a razor. Two pieces here. Looks like the thickness close enough. This one might be slightly thicker on this side a little bit. Now I've seen some guys, they'll score this fat cap. I think that's more important for cooking a whole one at one time. But when you do a whole one, you're looking at probably a 9 to 12 hour cook. I've read and watched where some people split it in half like this and they can do it in about 5 hours, maybe 6. That's kind of what I'm shooting for today. This kosher salt seems to be the big thing in barbecue, so that's what I use. A lot of guys know a lot more about this than me, swear by it, so. And they also do your salt first so you can kind of control and see what you've got to make sure you don't overdo it. And I do not like extremely salty food. So I'll probably go a little thinner with the salt than a lot of guys will. Now I live here in North Carolina, so the process up here is a little different for doing pork. Up here it's more of a, you know, hickory smoke, and they want to mop it and all that. I'm not going to do all of that. I will at some point. I'm sure I'll try it. I've been eating that kind of barbecue all my life, but I've also ventured out and had barbecue in other places that I like, and one of my favorites is actually Texas style. And some of the guys I watch, like Chud's Barbecue and Mad Scientist Barbecue, they predominantly cook in Texas style, which is mostly just a salt and pepper, sometimes garlic. Get this rub on there good and thick. This helps contribute to your bark formation. Get a little heavy in places, so I'll just rub that to distribute it across the meat better. Get these edges. Grilled for a lot of years too, but it was always on a gas grill. So coming into the barbecue and smoke and all that kind of stuff, that's new territory for me, but I enjoy it so far. I've been doing it for, I guess, a month and a half now. And I've learned a lot from these guys on YouTube, so that's one of the reasons why I'm here now doing this, because I think that a few of those did the same thing that I'm trying to do, and that's show videos, you know, kind of from the entry level point. If you can't tell, I like a lot of black pepper on my stuff, so I go pretty heavy with it. I'm kind of a heat junkie, so I wonder I'm not over here with the cayenne pepper or something. But let this set for a couple minutes. I'll go out and make sure the smoker's up to temp, and we'll get this on there. Kind of a closer shot, you can see the amount of seasoning on that. And you see as that smoke kind of clears up and becomes more transparent, that's what you want. That's a much better quality smoke. I'll put some thermometers in there in a minute. Another thing, if you watch many barbecue videos, or if you're familiar with it, you'll know, like if your fire's over here, put your vents over here. Vents go over the meat, or in the case of what I'm going to do here, the meat's going to be kind of in the middle, because I've got a snake that goes around the edges in there. Then your vent will be on the opposite side of the fire, which is what I've got now. Got some water added to the pan here in the middle. The fire's a few inches into the fuel, goes all the way around back over here. And we'll put this with the fat side up and kind of get the fat a little bit more toward the heat. That's why I'm wanting a bigger smoker. This thing right here is fine. This one here actually don't have much of a fat cap to it. It's got a little bit over here. I'm trying to put that on here like this. That's the bad thing about this. I got very limited cook space on this. I'll get my thermometer set here. Take this glove off. Now, as far as fancy, like a meat probe or something, I've got a ThermoWorks ThermoPam 1. I've got that in my pocket, but for something like this, these hooked to my phone and everything else, so it's handy to have for monitoring stuff while I'm not standing here with it the whole time. If you do this, don't ever let your probe touch the meat. If it does, you know, I keep one for ambient temperature and I keep another one I'll actually put inside the meat. Probably put it here in the thickest part of that one. But if you put the probe for your ambient temperature touching the meat, you're not gonna get accurate temperature. I gotta hurry up and get this thing closed. We'll put it here. I don't want it over the heat, but about 2 inches off the grate. And then this one right here, got damn about tangled up. We'll put that one here. That's probably about halfway in there. And if you look here, 163 ambient, which it'll take a little bit. I just put some cold meat in there. 46 on the internal. It says for beef, but it's just what I had it set on. I did some beef last time. I'm not really worried about what it says here. I use that to monitor the internal temperature of that pork in there. All right, taking a peek here. It's been about 2 hours. You can see here, the snake's burned around probably about a quarter, maybe a third of the way of where I had it. I'm just gonna hit these with a little bit of apple cider vinegar here. And that thing you're hearing, that's that freaking thermometer alarm going off on it. 4 hours in, let's lay an eyeball on this thing. There we go. Snake's about a little over halfway, maybe 60% around. So we'll keep these cooking a little while longer. They're about 152 right now internal. It's been about 6 hours. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, there's a good bark on there. So 165 internal, so I'm gonna take these and make a fall boat. So you'll have the meat sitting here and you'll have an enclosure around the sides so it protects the bottom and the sides, but the top stays exposed. Get a piece over here. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to wrap these things up, but I'm gonna find out. Got a really, really good bark going on that. It's good moist. From what I've seen, it looks like you would do something about like this right here. Like this to be tight around the sides. Just leave the top of it exposed. Woo. Hot. See, a lot of these guys, they'll take cotton gloves and put underneath these for heat. I didn't do that, so this stuff was a little bit hot. Kind of snug around the sides a little bit there. But we're gonna put this back on. I'm gonna reprobe it and we'll let it cook up to about 203, something like that. One more time, a little bit more of this vinegar here. We'll cover these things back up. Six hours on this snake. I've got about maybe 15-18% of it left. All right, it's been about 9 hours. Here's the final product. And I've let them rest for about an hour and 20 minutes. So yeah, a good bark on them. Got them up to 203. They're good to go. Yeah, look at it right there. Look at the juice in there. Oh yeah, just falls apart. Let's see if there's any good here. Oh yeah, that's definitely good.